for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning 0.647 acre located at 405-407 Sarg Avenue from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residential District, CI1 Intensive Commercial District, was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper circulation within the city. Attached here too is a true and correct copy of the legal published on June 26, 2023.
I move that the communication received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
Good evening, everyone. The applicant is seeking to rezone subject parcels from a residential zoning district to an commercial district as they wish to make use of property for commercial purposes. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as traditional high intensity. Currently, a majority of parcels within the vicinity of subdivisions are vacant, and all parcels to the north, south, and east for residential purposes. Since the proposed use varies from surrounding use, the applicant will take steps towards buffering the negative aspects of these upon residential use. The applicant plans to fence the lots and use them as storage for equipment for the Acme Electric business, which is to the west of the parcel. West Pleasant Street is classified as 80-foot secondary arterial public right-of-way, and South Wittenberg Avenue is classified as 60-foot wide collector public right-of-way by the Clark County Thoroughfare Plan. Any structures proposed will have to be reviewed for compliance with setbacks, height, and parking requirements, as well as with building regulations. Return reports from city staff state no objections and recommends approval of applicant's request to rezone the subject parcels from RS8 to CI1. The applicant's request was approved by the City Planning Board, was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns from the neighbors at the meeting and after the meeting. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Have there been any objections along the way?
There have been none. No
Thank you.
objection.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. That concludes the hearings. And in a minute, we'll start the city commission. The city commission is called to order. The roll call from the previous hearing will cover that also. Please please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather this evening to make decisions. Help us to make them well and serve the people of Springfield as they should be served. In your name we pray. Amen.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Are you ready for a roll call? Mayor Copeland,
Yes,
can we do a roll call for the minute?
sure.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I did that out of order. We need have a motion to approve the minutes.
We did that.
We already did that.
Yes, sir.
First readings by
Hey.
by title only.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.647 acre at 405-407 South Wittenberg Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to CI1 Intensive Commercial District. Amending ordinance number 95-181 to modify the city's participating loan to enable a development growth environment pledge program. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated to extend the period of performance to December 31, 2023, confirming and approving related services provided from March 30, 2023 to the passage of this ordinance. Oops. One says declaring an emergency, but it's not. That's a first reading only. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Dayton to extend the period of performance to December 31, 2023, confirming and approving related services provided from June 30, 2023 to the passage of this ordinance.
Questions or comments from commissioners? Yes.
I was wondering if a member of the staff might remind us of what the pledge program is.
Yes, commissioners. I'll actually have Bobby Bruno, our economic development manager, talk about this program.
Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. So the Pledge Program is a linked deposit program where the city can work with banks and other lenders to help buy down the interest rate for commercial loans. So we re-legislated this to follow the policies and guidelines of our investment policy here at the city. And we're going to find this a lot more useful as interest rates have hiked in the last year or two.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on first readings? Okay, clerk will proceed to second readings.
Authorizing the purchase of IBM hardware from Mapsys Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $53,490 through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services pursuant to Ohio's Cooperative Purchasing Act in accordance with the provisions of Section 125.04 of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing for payments therefor and declaring an emergency therein.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement by and between the City of Springfield, Ohio and Champion City Commons LLC and granting a community reinvestment area tax abatement and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
How many years is this abasement?
I would
Oh, I'm
like to
sorry.
hear
I
a
need to
little
look
more
up.
about the
Yeah, I just want to hear
project.
more about it overall.
It's an
How long's the
exciting.
abatement?
Yeah.
Well, Commissioners, I'll have,
Ask a question.
I'll have
You
Bobby
okay?
Bruno again, our Economic
Okay.
Development Manager, talk to the actual CRA grant that we will be providing, or the tax abatement. And then I do know the property owner and developer is present as well, and probably can talk a little bit about his plans for the project.
So this is a 12-year, 75% abatement for the redevelopment of the former Methodist Church at High Street. So this is going to be a $1.95 million investment from the property owner. It's going to create 5 jobs, and it's going to open up commercial space for more job creation in the future. So excited to have Levi here to talk about the project a little more.
My name is Levi Duncan, so I'm the owner of the Champion City Commons. So the Commons is going to be broken out into 3 phases over a year. First phase will bring an event center to the city center with a 600 capacity. It'll also have a commercial kitchen that will cater the events, so it'll be for weddings, corporate events, as well as dinner theater, which is the milestone that we're trying to reach for this fall. The push for today was so we can make the facility available for this fall for the Holiday in the City events and different things. Outside of first phase, by the spring, we're looking to bring in 2 additional restaurants, with the final phase ending fall of 2024, which will bring 10 to 12 retail spaces in the facility, bringing it to 12 retail spaces, 3 restaurants, and an event.
Outstanding.
Very aggressive.
Thank you. And this is not High Street Methodist Church. This is the former Methodist Church that became a community center for a while, next to the Buckeye Sports Club, correct?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for investing in our.
Looking forward.
Anyone else want to speak to this matter?
I do just have more of it doesn't
Oh,
even
yeah,
apply to you. I just wanted to know if someone was interested in a certain building or something, how would you begin that process with the city in order to gain some momentum to be able to do that?
Yeah, so a project of this size, first and foremost, was relationships. So I started off with the Small Business Development Center. So I worked with Rob Alexander pretty extensively with the plan, as well as with the city, Bobby Bruno. He helped me a lot on the financial side to make the project viable. I'm also working with the Community Navigators program under the SBDC to help me build out the tenant mix in the building. Right now, we have several restaurants and quite a bit of backlog of retailers that are looking for space downtown. So I think it's going to be a pretty great addition to downtown.
Right, sure. Thank you.
And Commissioner, just broadly, if somebody is interested in learning about opportunities and specifically around CRA programs and so forth, they can certainly contact anyone within the city manager's office, and specifically the 3 members of our economic development, Tom Franzen, Bobby Bruno, and our newest addition, I'll plug him right now, is Reggie Troutman, our minority business coordinator
Reggie.
that started with us 2 weeks ago. And so definitely feel free to reach out if you have questions about getting, and we may not be the final answer. We might connect you to the SBDC. We might connect you with the chamber. We might, depending on your project and so forth, we'll work.
There's been a little bit of talk about wanting to refurbish the Urban League. So this was perfect timing. So those individuals who are interested in, refurbishing the Urban League, you can reach out to someone here in the office, and the city would be more than happy to help you along that way. Thank you, Levi. That was a wonderful testament to what the city does with individuals who would like to move Springfield forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's great to see all of these various programs and people coming together to make this possible.
So I will tell you that you cannot. The different teams that you have in this city is pretty amazing. So I'm coming from Maryland. So I'm active duty Space Force. So I came here to end my career and retire. Coming from Maryland, I will tell you that it is leaps and bounds different from the support that you have here in Springfield. It has helped me grow my business. So I'm also the owner of the Liberty Remodeling Company out in the West End. Also a testament to the SBDC, who helped me start that company from my head. Now 12 to 15 employees. So I will tell you you guys really, really do a great job with small businesses once they get connected with those.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience want to speak to this? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving amendment number 2 to the agreement with App Architecture LLC for the design of 3 new fire stations to increase the agreement for an amount not to exceed $4,836 for a total amount not to exceed $891,626 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an amendment number 2 to the agreement with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $8,000 for a total amount not to exceed $98,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
We have about 5 of these items before us. And I was wondering if we could get some sense of how much we've spent to date taking care of nuisance properties and mowing.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'll have our Deputy Director for Community Development, Steve Thompson, provide that information.
Good evening, Commissioners. So, yeah, I was able to get data on year-to-date spending so far. On demolition, we've spent $576,000. On boarding and securing vacant structures, we've spent $27,764. Junk and trash removal, $116,288. And mowing, $81,408. That's a grand total of around $801,537.
Closing in on $1 million that the taxpayers of Springfield are having to spend to try to keep property clean and trash-free and demolish those that are unsafe. If there was any doubt in anyone's mind why we needed the vacant property registry or the rental property registry, I offer you $801,537 worth of good reason. We should not be spending the city's resources to bail out people who are living off the taxpayer and not living up to their responsibilities. Keep our city clean and safe. Keep up the good work. I would hope at some point we can make this number go down considerably, but keep up the good work.
Anything else from commissioners? Anyone in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. I'm sorry, what? Name and address for the record.
Yvonne Owens, 521 Dibert. In what area is this throughout the city of Springfield, or is it just designated right now at one specific area in the city?
No, this is throughout the entire community. So this is demolitions, junk and trash, boarding and securing of vacant structures, and that's throughout the entire city.
Okay, who determines what area that they go to? What I'm trying to say is, do they just go and patrol the city? Do they get phone calls? How does that work?
Yes, we are a complaint-driven system, and so we receive phone calls, emails, complaints, report a concern. Feature on our website allows you to report junk and trash, weeds, vacant structures. When we receive trash, when we receive those, we have officers that do go out there, code enforcement officers. They perform an initial inspection. If there is a violation, they will work to send notice to the property owner. That property owner has a certain amount of time to rectify the situation, depending on the type of violation it is. After that time period has elapsed, that officer will re-inspect the property. If it's been dealt with, great. If not, then we pursue, like weeds, for example, we have contractors that will send out to mow, and then we bill the property owner for that. If it's a larger issue like a demolition and stuff, we will try to recoup those costs or start a civil fine process, et cetera.
How do you determine if it's a demolition?
We have inspectors look at the property. Steve, if you want to elaborate on that.
Sure. So the main criteria is first, a structure has to be vacant, so no one can be living in it. And second, based on the violations, in our opinion, it's beyond repair, meaning it would cost more money to repair it than is financially feasible to bring it back to a habitable status. And so at that point, that's when we move it to a demolition case, and we remove the blighting influence at that point.
Do you give the owner the opportunity to improve it, to renovate it, to...
Yes, one of the first steps in the demolition process, and typically when we issue orders to demolish, it's not the first time that owners receive some kind of notice from us. So we do a title search, and that tells us who the owner is, plus anyone who might have a lien or a mortgage against the property. We send notice to the owner, all of those folks, giving them an opportunity to come in and give us a case of why it should not be demolished, what plan they have to repair it. 9 times out of 10, we never hear from anyone, and that begins the formal process to start demolition.
I was just asking because we have a house on our street that's been there since I've been there, nobody in it. And it just sits there.
What's the address, ma'am?
I don't, right off my head, I can't think of what the address is.
But on Dibert?
On Dibert, yes.
Okay.
But you say call where?
You can call Steve.
Sure, if you want to call the main code enforcement line, their number is 937.
Just a moment, please.
Yep.
Okay.
937-324-7385.
Thank you very much.
Or again, like Brian stated, we do have a report of concern feature on our website where you can do it all from your phone or tablet, computer. To also input any kind of complaint.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to speak to this? Clerk will call the roll.
We'll go on with the next item. Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance conditions services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Gary Gilbert Jr., doing business as Gilbert Lawn Service for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Whitaker Hauling for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the contract with Mike's Lawn and More LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city, to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $40,000 for a total amount not to exceed $90,000 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into agreement number 39482 with OR Cullen Associates LLC for the CLA 72 project, PID number 113792, for an amount not to exceed $263,525 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments?
Yes, I would like to know what we're receiving for our $263,000 in terms of services related.
Yeah, I'll state this is related to the South Limestone project. And Chris, if you want to speak to the specifics of this vendor.
This vendor will help us navigate the appraisals and negotiations for all of the permanent and temporary property acquisition that needs to take place for the South Limestone project.
Tell us a little more about what's going on, why we need to have service.
Yeah, so if you've ever walked down South Limestone, you may realize that the sidewalk is right against the curb and the street lights are in the middle of the sidewalk. This will provide a little buffer that will get the sidewalks back a little, get the street lights out of the middle, make it much more pedestrian friendly. But to do that, we have to be able to work on some of the private property down through there.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 3 with the contract with J.L. Cook General Contractors for the City Hall parking garage repairs and plaza redesign project, to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $854,634 for a total amount not to exceed $7,176,652.33 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments, commission?
Wow. $854,000 change order. What, can someone explain to everyone why this is necessary?
Yeah, so commissioners, again, this is related to the parking garage that sits underneath our building as well as the plaza redesign. When the project was last done, or when the last major renovation was done in 1995, they installed or replaced some of the rubber membrane that protects and keeps water from leaking into the basement and deteriorating the concrete. When we ripped up the concrete, this project had originally intended to replace a portion of that membrane and tie in to that existing membrane that was replaced in 95. When the contractor tore everything up and started investigating and examining, it was determined that the membrane was not installed correctly in 95, so they would not be able to tie into that existing membrane and still guarantee the garage would not leak. And so we are going to have to replace all of the sections of membrane, even that were replaced in 95 and now. And unfortunately, it's one of those things, until you tear everything up, can't see it. So you want it now. And so that is why we have such a large change order as it relates to this specific project.
Do we have any recourse against the company that installed the membrane 95 improperly?
No, we would not have any recourse at this point in time.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment B to the engineering services agreement with Black and Veatch Corporation for the Eastern Pressure District Waterline Upgrades Project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $139,374 for a total amount not to exceed $778,311 and to extend the project completion date to August 25th, 2023, confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from January 27, 2023 to the passage of this ordinance and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Shelley Company for the facilities paving project for an amount not to exceed $675,054.25 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 1 to the contract between the city and McDaniels Construction Corporation Incorporated for the tuck pointing project at the wastewater treatment plant to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $8,912.32 for a total amount not to exceed $220,036.03 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 1 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Majors Enterprises Incorporated for the Northern Avenue Utility Upgrade Project for an amount not to exceed $4,437,736 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering if we might get some additional information about this.
Yeah, I'll have Chris Moore, our service director, talk a little bit about all the work that will happen as a part of this project.
This will be a pretty major project on Northern Avenue. It will, in the end, there will be new sanitary sewers, new storm sewers. It will separate those, so part of our combined sewer overflow long-term control plan. We will be replacing all of the water services to eliminate lead water services. And then there will be a portion of water main for about 2 blocks that will have to be lowered, so it will be reinstalled. And then in the end, the road will be resurfaced from Limestone Street east to the dead end. And it will also address some of that excessively high curb in those middle 2 or 3 blocks. It's a quite a large project for that neighborhood.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Consenting to the appointment of Dory Geyer to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
That's the end of the agenda items. That's the end of the agenda items.
Hey, I just didn't know if you had something else.
Oh, no,
Over
that's
there.
all I have.
Are there comments from the commissioners?
I do have one comment. I really wanted to say I appreciate you ladies continuing to come to city commission meetings to stay informed. And I really do appreciate seeing you guys here as well as my crew over here, just to be sure that you're not missing anything as community members. Thank you for continuing to come. I appreciate that.
I agree. Anybody else? Anyone in the audience want to speak to us? There's a 3-minute limit on our audience speaking, but you're free to speak. 3 minutes. Anyone? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.